So I'm Connie Mutel, a long-term Iowa City resident, and I am on staff at the University of Iowa. I'm at IIHR-Hydroscience and Engineering. I'm an ecologist, and I do quite a bit of writing both for my job and out in other functions, and especially enjoy doing natural and environmental history writing and introducing people to the natural world. Since I write about our natural world and the destruction of the natural world, when you write about Iowa, you write about the destruction of the natural world just because we are the most modified landscape. Some people say the most manipulated and modified landscape in the world. You have to portray that. But what I always try to do is end with a sense of hope. And people say to me, well, are you hopeful? And if you are hopeful, what can we do to be a part of it? Where do you get hope? And I always say that what they should do and what I do is to turn to the natural world itself, because the natural world, in my mind, is eager to respond. That sounds very anthropomorphic, but it's as if nature is just waiting. Nature in Iowa is waiting to have half a chance to proliferate once again, and to not be so managed by a heavy hand, the heavy human hand. And so I tell people to get involved in the natural world, and that will both soothe them and do something good for the environment. It's interesting. I have an office both in my home and at the university. And at the university I do my, what I call my busy work, prepare talks, take care of emails. I attend the archives at the hydraulics lab and that sort of thing. But if I'm really working on something hard that takes a lot of concentration, I work at my home office, and one of the benefits there, aside from the quiet, is that it is in the middle of a woodland, and so it's a very nice environment. But also it allows me to work pretty much around the clock. So if I get an idea at 5 in the morning, I get up, I sit down in my nightgown, and I just start working. If I get one late at night, I can do the same thing. So it's not, my work isn't sequestered to a certain office space where I'm at for set hours. It's much more fluid and integrated with my everyday life. Well, I can't function, period, if I'm in large groups of people. I'm not a city person, and I kind of fall apart in large cities. I guess since my writing is focused on factual content, on explaining nature, the danger is always that you want to include everything you know. And so there's not a particular word or phrase I cut, but there's an awful lot of cutting. And I tell people that my book, Emerald Horizon, I was assisted by a very good editor who helped me cut that book down to about 3/4 of the size that it was in my final draft. So just a lot of cutting, a lot of simplification. I write what I know, and then I go back and say, okay, tell this very simply so that a beginner can understand it. Yeah. I like the phrase that I heard many, many years ago, which is, a writer is a thoughtful person. And that means that you're always thinking about your audience, and you constantly have the silent person in front of you for whom you're writing. And that makes you, I think that helps you simplify the work and explain it in lay terms. Yeah, for me it's being outside, it's being in the natural world. I love to come home after a busy day at work and just go out into the woods for a couple hours and muck around. I think that my writing gets a lot of strength from trying to integrate essay techniques into scientific writing. And I've learned a great deal from Karl Klaus about essays. What I would love to do is to do a book that introduced people to a very small piece of land in Johnson County, perhaps the land that I live on, and introduce them in detail, in depth, to all of the elements that make up the natural world here, and then integrate that with the human story, perhaps of my life, perhaps of human settlement. So that's maybe a dream that I have for retirement. We'll see. The biggest influence right now is the convergence, I think, of a lot of environmental problems. And I became aware of those this last winter when doing some work on a climate change report, climate change impacts report. I had done that, I did that soon after working on a book on floods and landscape alteration in Iowa, and together those three kind of overwhelmed me. I think that because my writing really is focused on trying to help people understand the natural environment and what we can do to be positive agents of change, I feel a great deal of, I'd say, pressure or need to continue to work with this complexity of issues that is facing us right now. I have a hard time putting together all of the different impacts that we have on the land and on our planet. And if I do, and I'm trained in this and I know a great deal about these things, the layperson obviously does. And so I'm struggling with ways of trying to help people understand that we really are at a turning point now. And we need to do things differently. And at the same time, help them be hopeful about their own lives, their own future, and what they can do as positive change agents. Well, it certainly is meditative. I mean, you have to go into another world when you're writing, a world apart. But for me, I guess it's spiritual just because I think I'm a deeply spiritual person, but a lot of that spirituality is expressed through the natural world. So whenever I'm writing about nature and the complex interreactions there, I think that I'm writing about spiritual matters. In my definition, possibly different from many of the people, other writers in Iowa City, writing to me is a technique. It's a function. It's a process that I use to express ideas and to communicate with other people about things that that are important to me. It's not so much an expression of myself. There are 7 billion people on the planet. We all have our unique identities, and each one of us is special and unusual and interesting. I don't need to tell that story, but I feel like I do need to tell the story of what's happening out in nature, and that, to me, is what writing is about. There are a lot of people who understand the science who don't enjoy the writing process and struggle with it. And I love the writing process. I love putting together words to have meaning and to have them sound beautiful. I was trained originally as a musician, and I think that it's a kind of music. When you write well, it's a kind of music. So that's my writing is process and beauty.